All right, everyone. We start off today talking about something that really grinds my gears, which is the existence of bottled water. Back in the old days, people went to the water fountain and things like that. I can only think of a couple of situations in which bottled water, with the non-reusable plastic bottles, I can only think of a couple of reasons in which that would actually need to be a thing. If you're going through airport security, for example, you are on the go and you do not have time to refill because there's no water fountain around. Those are acceptable. Otherwise, I think that people, generally speaking, should carry glass bottles around and reuse them indefinitely. Because unless they break, they can be used indefinitely. Now, some people are on city water. Here we have a private well. So it's already filtered, it's nice and clean, and, relatively free of microplastics for the most part, unlike the bottled water that you're buying. But at the same time, some people are on city water. Well, you can get a distilling system fairly easily, actually, in order to remove chlorine and fluoride and all of those other nasty things from the water supply. It is not impossible to do. You can get a Brita filter or something like that. That's what I would suggest. I would suggest you can save a shit ton of money by not buying packages of bottled water. Now, there are a couple of other instances in which it's justified to get it. Number one, survivalism. Okay, if you're stocking up a little bit of water, although you can just use Bud Light or any other light beer for this purpose as well, in order to, prevent dehydration during a disaster, okay, stockpiling a little bit of that is perfectly fine. They used to can water, actually. The U.S. military had purified water in little white cans, actually, that they were giving out for an extended period of time during the Cold War. So it's basically the same idea. It's just that it's in plastic instead of tin. A little bit more efficient, admittedly, certainly, for economic purposes. That's perfectly fine. So if it's for survivalism or you're on the go, so, you're a frequent flyer or something like that, and you happen to get a bottle of water, in the airport after you go through security, those are justified. That's perfectly fine. Otherwise, though, technically, bottled water should not exist. It should not exist in the store. It should not exist in when you go to the vending machine. Why the hell are you going to spend the same amount of money on water that you could be spending on something that's caffeinated? That would be my big question because I really, really love caffeine. That's just my personal opinion, of course. But overall, the justification for bottled water, when people are, dispensing dozens and dozens of plastic bottles, and it all ends up in a landfill, and it all slowly degrades and pollutes literally everything. This is the biggest problem that we have within environmentalism, arguably today. It's microplastics and nanoplastics, of course. It's not climate change. That's bullshit. Even Bill Gates is slowly realizing this. Planetary, take some trash out. It'll end up in a landfill anyway, so it doesn't really make a difference. What we should be doing is making less plastic. We should be using less plastic components in every part of our lives. So what I would like to do is just take a couple of glass bottles, fill them up, and then you take them on the go. You do not need to buy additional water. It costs a fraction of the price. It is almost indefinitely reusable, unless it breaks, of course, in which case is a problem. The only exception would be you're going through security, and so, they think it's not water. They think it's nitroglycerin or something like that. And so, unfortunately, you're going to have to forfeit your self-bottled water. Under any other circumstances, though, sans, again, the survivalism aspect, there's really no reason to buy it. And it just clogs up landfills. It kills fucking turtles. Now, I'm always told by the left, think of the children, think of the animals. All right, well, then why are you buying bottled water all of the time? You give it out at your events and things like that. Why don't you use refillables or something like that? It would make a lot more sense from an environmental standpoint. I noticed that that's not actually happening. There's probably a reason for this. I think that bottled water, in the sense of using plastic containers, should be effectively banned. If it's in an airport or something like that, I can understand, okay, for convenience sake, there's really nothing else to do. But otherwise, why are you buying bottled water? Unless you're stockpiling a small amount of it just in case that there's a tornado or something like that. It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. I'm just old enough to remember a time when it didn't really exist. I mean, it was there, but it wasn't widely consumed. It was a scarcity sort of situation. Most people got their water from the drinking fountain. Yeah, or they reused a glass bottle, or they got it from their tap, something like that. At least in small town America. I cannot speak to how urban situations were back in that time frame, back in the early to mid 90s. That being said, though, it was much better when you really think about it. The water was better. Yeah, absolutely. This water that they put in plastic bottles, it has a weird, off-putting flavor sometimes, actually. Water is not supposed to be flavored. When I drink from the well, of course, here, it's like, hey, this is crystal clear. It's perfectly pure. Why don't I put it in a plastic bottle? Why the hell do I need to buy your water? Yeah, they're like, $10 for a case or something like that. It's not terribly expensive, but there's no reason to absorb the cost at all. It makes absolutely no sense. Literally none whatsoever. Also, you can take your self-bottled water, right? And there are all sorts of things you can put in it to make it taste different. Maybe a little bit of lime juice or something like that, to prevent scurvy. Something along those lines. It's really, really wonderful when you think about it. Reuse your glass jars and just use them. If you're going through airport security, or if you're just stockpiling water for a survival situation, the power's out for a number of days, a tornado just ripped the roof off of your house, that's perfectly justifiable. Otherwise, it makes no sense to go to the fucking vending machine and buy bottled water. It makes no sense. Why are you paying so much money for something that you can get for effectively free at any given time? For example, you can get a survival straw. You can filter water as much as you want. You can get a filtration system. There are multiple varieties available. You can also just drink it straight out of a goddamn pond. I've done this on a number of occasions. The water out and behind my home is literally the same water that goes into the Rutland Works and actually feeds the entire city its water. Well, I'll just scoop it out of the stream and I'll drink it straight. I don't need to filtrate it. There's no bacteria in there or anything like that. It would be much better to just fill a bottle there and reuse it over and over again. It would be a lot more cost effective, just saying. That's about all. Peace out.